Hello, UFC fight fans. This is Aaron Pelletier. I'm here to break down UFC 242, Habib versus Poirier. I'll be covering the main card, strictly the main card. Not going to be covering the UFC prelims. Don't have the time for that. I'm very excited for this card. I'm not the biggest fan of Habib or Poirier, but Habib's just that good. He's so good at what he does that I'm really interested to see how each new opponent does against what he does. Before I get to the main event, I'll be going in order from the first fight up. And the first fight is Beck versus Carlos Diego Ferreira. This is a fun fight. Beck is one of my favorites. You know, I think he's going to be a title contender pretty soon. He is 6-0 in his last 6 fights. He's 7-1 in the UFC, and he's 27-5 overall as a professional. Diego is on a 4-fight winning streak. He's 4-0 in his last 4 fights. He is 6-2 in the UFC, and he's 15-2 overall in his professional career. A lot of people are going to be thinking this is a striker versus grappler fight, but Diego ain't no slouch on the feet, and his numbers he brings kind of prove it. Diego, he lands 4.70 strikes per minute, and he has 3.3 significant strikes absorbed per minute. So that means he's very active on the feet when it comes to striking. His takedown defense is a weak 23%. He lands 23% of his takedowns. He landed 3 out of his 13 takedown attempts. And that's not very good. So I think that's enough proof that it's gonna be on the feet, because Beck, he brings an 88% takedown defense. He blocks 88% of his takedowns. He hasn't been taken down in over 5 years and 6 months. And the last time he was taken down was by Michel Prazeres. He was only able to land 3 out of 11 takedowns, but that was the last time he's ever been taken down. So, and people say, he hasn't fought any good grapplers since. It's a lie. His last fight was against Desmond Green. Desmond Green was a state champion wrestler and a MAC champion, NCAA Division I, which means for the NCAA Division I, he was a Mid-American Conference 149 champion, which is pretty decorated. He's a 3-time Division I All-American, NCAA All-American qualifier. So Desmond Green brings a really good wrestling background to the table. At the time, he was landing 50% of his takedowns right before he fought Beck, and right now he's landing 62.5% of his takedowns. Yeah, the dude's a really good grappler. He's a great wrestler. He's good at taking people to the ground. This guy couldn't take Beck down. Out of 4 takedown attempts he went for, got them all stuffed. I think that just proves just how good he is at dodging takedowns. So I think that's enough to prove that Carlos isn't getting this to the ground, which sucks for him because he's a 3rd-degree black belt. He's a hell of a grappler, but he ain't going to get it down. So it's going to be a striking battle, and although Carlos is a good striker, he ain't no Beck takes him off. Carlos lands more significant strikes per minute. Beck only lands 2.88 strikes per minute, but when it comes to significant strikes absorbed, Carlos absorbs more strikes. Beck's knockdown ratio is 95%. That is high. That's one of the highest in the UFC. And his fight time, his average fight time is 7 minutes and 55 seconds. So what does that mean? That means he doesn't throw much strikes. The fact that his fight time is so short and he doesn't land very many strikes and his knockdown ratio is so high, that means when he hits you, he hurts you. And he fights out of Tiger Muay Thai, so he's a very good, dangerous striker. I think he's going to clean Carlos. Carlos is going to sleep. That's my prediction for that fight. Merabic's going to block any takedown Carlos goes for, and Carlos is going to get murdered on the feet. Marabic is just a much better striker. And grappling isn't going to do much. It's going to be another knockout win for Marabic Tyson-Wolf. So the next fight is Curtis Blaydes versus Shamil Abdurakhimov. This one is a wrestler versus striker fight. Curtis Blaydes is, in my opinion, the best wrestler in the division, the heavyweight division. Wrestled for NCAA Division I as a freshman. He was a redshirt freshman, and he went 19-2. I couldn't find what he placed, if he placed at all. But instead of continuing in Division I, he went to NJCAA Junior, and he wrestled there for a sophomore year, and he was a national champion. So after that sophomore year, he quit wrestling and went straight to MMA. But that says how good of a wrestler he really is. And his wrestling pace is amazing. He's like the heavyweight Habib Nurmagomedov. He lands 57% of his takedowns, which is really good. He doesn't absorb much strikes. He only absorbs 2.03 strikes per minute. And his takedown average is 6.79. I believe that's per round, which is insane. That is a huge pace. A big guy going in for that many takedowns that often, that's incredible. This dude has a great pace and great cardio. He's that good. Shamil, I'll call him Shamil. He's a striker, He's a Russian striker. He lands 46% of his strikes. His significant strikes landed per minute is 2.44, and strikes absorbed per minute is 2.24. The thing that worries me for this fight is his knockdown ratio is pretty low. It's only a 0.21, so he doesn't knock people down very often. His fight time is 11 minutes and 41 seconds. So that means he goes past the second round often, which isn't good because Curtis is going to push. But the thing that worries me the most for Shamil is his takedown defense. It's only at 67%. He's been taken down by a lot less grappler, a lot weaker wrestler than Curtis Blaydes in the past. I think Curtis's takedowns, his pace, his pressure, I think it's going to be too much for Shamil. I think he's going to get the win pretty easily. It's either going to be a 3-round decision or a second round TKO. The next fight is another favorite of mine. I'm really excited about this one. This is eye candy for all the grappling fans. Islam Makhachev versus Davey Ramos. Islam Makhachev is a combat sambo world champion, and Davey Ramos is an ADCC world champion and a South American ADCC world champion. Those are great grappling pedigrees. It's the sambo versus jiu-jitsu, Who knows what's better? They're both really good grapplers. Islam's record is 17-1. He's 6-1 in the UFC, and he's on a 5-fight winning streak. Davey Ramos is 4-2 overall, 4-1 in the UFC, and he's on a 4-fight winning streak. I don't think Islam is scared of Davey's jiu-jitsu background, so I think he's going to fight how he always does. I think he's going to go in for takedowns. And the same thing for Davey. I think Davey's going to utilize his striking advantage, but still see him going in for a takedown. He wants that takedown. He wants the submissions. So the thing that impresses me most about Islam is his wrestling. His takedown defense is at a 93%. His takedown accuracy is at a 70.8%. That is the third highest right now, currently, out of all fighters, the takedown accuracy. But the fact that he's a wrestler, like the two people above him, Robbie Lawler, Robbie doesn't go for many takedowns. So it's kind of like a striker going in for like a handful of takedowns and landing some. But this is a wrestler who goes in for takedowns and lands 70.8% of them. I'll give you a little picture of how good that really is. The UFC lightweight champ, Habib Nurmagomedov, that's Islam's best friend. He's a high-paced wrestler, and he only lands 45% of his takedowns. Islam lands 70.8% of his takedowns. And before his last fight, he was landing 87.7% of his takedowns. That is really good. This guy is a murderer on the ground. He only absorbs 0.82 significant strikes per minute. So he fights very comfortable. He doesn't take much risks. He fights the way he wants to fight. He doesn't play into other people's game. He's a very safe fighter. And his fight time, which is very surprising because he's such an amazing wrestler, is 7 minutes and 31 seconds. That means he finishes his fights. He ain't just some dude that hugs you until the fight's over. He looks to finish you. Another thing I like about him is, unlike his best bud Habib, he will pass guard. He will look for passes. He will look to better his position. You know, wrestlers like Habib, you know, they are comfortable in one spot, so they will hold you in one spot and kind of just pound on you. But Islam, he doesn't take much risks on the feet, but when he gets to the ground, he's passing. He's passing. He has 2 wins with 1 takedown in the first round. So that means with his 2 wins, he took the person down and immediately start passing guard, start doing whatever he could, and got the submission like that. That's impressive when someone can do that. His hips are very strong. His hips are never facing away from the mat. You know, so he's never getting his hips turned. He's very good at that. That makes it really hard to take him down. And it shows because his takedown defense is 93%. He tries different takedowns too. He's really strong in the clinch. He'll use sweeps. His trips are vicious. In his last fight versus Arman, I think that's the dude's name. He almost landed 2, but he landed 1 trips. So yeah, this guy's really good. I honestly don't see many people beating him. Davey Ramos. How good is Davey Ramos? Davey Ramos is a 3rd-degree black belt in Jiu-Jitsu. That's how he accomplished being an ADCC world champion. He lands 58% of his takedowns. He doesn't have a takedown percentage because he's never been taken down. No one wants to try and take this dude down because he's so damn good at submitting people on the ground. So that's gonna be really interesting. I don't think Islam's gonna be scared. I think Islam's gonna take him down. So it's gonna be interesting to see how Davey fights off his back, seeing just how good of a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt he is. So his fight time's 8 minutes and 1 second. So he finishes his fights a little. Islam finishes him a little bit more, but he does finish his fights too a lot. Strikes accuracy for Islam is 61, and Davey's is only 38. You know, people, they say Davey has a striking advantage. I think he does, but it's really hard to explain how. If you watch them fight, Davey seems more composed in the striking department, you know. He doesn't land as much strikes, but Islam does spend a lot of time on top in grappling. So it's a lot easier to land strikes when you're on top of someone than when you're at distance and striking. The biggest factor in this fight, what's going to make the biggest difference, is conditioning and cardio. they're just both so good at grappling that I think the person who gets tired first is going to lose. I think the stats show that Islam has a better conditioning. His takedown average is 4.33. I believe that's a minute, like I said, for the Curtis fight. That means he lands 4 takedowns a minute. That's tough to do that. Wrestling is really tiring, you know. His last fight with the Erman guy, that was a grueling fight. Non-stop wrestling. He landed 4 out of 9 takedown attempts. And Erman went for 12 takedown attempts. And Islam was able to block one of them. I mean, all of them besides one. So he was able to keep that grueling pace going for 3 full rounds, and he's able to block 11 out of 12 takedowns. I think that shows just how good of conditioning Islam really has. And I think he's just a better wrestler, so I think he might be able to control Davey better, and Davey will control him. People say when 2 great grapplers fight one another, it all comes down to who's the better striker. I don't see that, because I don't see these guys being scared of taking each other down. And I think they're just going to grapple. And I think Islam's going to last longer and win a decision. 3-round decision. The next fight is a fan favorite, Edson Barboza versus Paul Felder. Edson Barboza, he's 20-7 in the UFC overall, 14-7 in the UFC. Paul Felder's 16-4 overall. I have no idea what his UFC record is. Apologize for that. It's going to be a striking fight for these two. Their stats are very similar. Edson lands 43% of his strikes. Paul lands 44% of his strikes. Their grappling accuracy, it's not going to matter because they ain't going to be looking to wrestle each other. They're going to be looking to knock each other out. Their strikes landed per minute. Edson has 4.01 strikes landed, significant strikes landed per minute. Paul has 3.53 significant strikes landed per minute. So Edson edges him on how many strikes they land per minute. The strikes absorbed per minute, significant strikes absorbed per minute. Edson is 4.18 and Paul is 3.08. So Edson lands more strikes per minute, but he also absorbs more strikes per minute. But people that throw strikes at Edson have to be throwing more strikes because his striking defense is 60%, Paul's is 51%. So even though Edson gets hit more a minute, people throw more strikes at Edson than they do at Paul. And Edson's knockdown ratio is at a 65%. It means half the time he's knocking someone down. Paul's only at a 32%. So since their strikes landed per minute are so similar, I think that's enough to say that Edson lands, he lands more shots that count. If he's knocking people down more often than Paul is, and they're landing similar amounts of strikes, then Edson has to be landing the better shots. And his fight time shorter. Edson's fight time is at 10 minutes and 58 seconds. Paul's is at 11 minutes and 46 seconds. So Edson also finishes fights earlier. So really, I think those stats show that Edson is a tad bit better striker. He was in their first fight. He was able to outstrike Paul, not by a lot, but he was. I don't think Paul can knock out Edson. He was unable to knock out Beck. I said this before on Facebook and Twitter. I know he fought Beck with a collapsed lung, but he hit Vic with some good shots, but he wasn't able to finish Vic, and we all know how weak of a chin Vic has. So I don't see one of these two knocking each other out, and I don't see them trying to grapple with one another. So I think it's going to be a fighter winning by outpointing the other with strikes. I think Edson is still a tad bit better striker than Paul, so I think Edson's going to outpoint Paul to a decision. That's my prediction for the Edson versus Paul fight. And now we're to the main event. Habib the Eagle Nurmagomedov versus Dustin the Diamond Poirier. How is a fighter going to do against Habib's pressure wrestling? He's considered unstoppable. For a good reason, the guy is unbeaten in 27 fights. He's 27-0. He's 11-0 in the UFC. Dustin is 25-5 overall, 17-4-1 in UFC. He has 17 wins in UFC, 4 losses, and 1 no contest. That is a legit record. That's a legit overall record for anybody. This dude is a UFC veteran. Habib is a 2-time combat sambo world champion. Saying Habib's a vicious wrestler. The thing about Habib is he's a really good chain wrestler. He wrestles, he pressures you, and he's non-stop wrestling. His takedown average is 5.909. He has 116 takedown attempts in 11 fights. That might be the highest takedown per fight ratio in the UFC. It might be, I'm not quite sure, but it's up there. Strikes absorbed per minute is 1.70, which means he doesn't get hit very often. He's always changing levels. He's never where he doesn't want to be. He's a very safe fighter when it comes to all aspects of being in the octagon. Even when he gets you down, he doesn't pass. He likes staying in one area, and he likes being safe. And that shows because he doesn't get hit very often. And his fight time average is 13 minutes and 56 seconds. So he spends a lot of time in the octagon. He's always running in for takedowns. He's always going in for takedowns. He doesn't get hit often. So basically, Habib is a guy that's going to shoot. When he's on the feet, he isn't going to take risks. He's just going to shoot. He's going to stay back. And when he gets you down, he's going to hold you in one area. Because his passing, he doesn't go for very much passes. He doesn't go for very much smashing attempts. So what's that say for Dustin? Dustin, they both, when it comes to striking accuracy, they both land 50% of the strikes. Dustin, though, lands a higher strikes per minute than Habib. Dustin strikes at a 5.59 strikes per minute. It means he lands almost 6 strikes per minute. He's a pressure fighter too. He's just he's not the same type of pressure fighter as Habib. He likes pressuring you with his boxing. His knockdown ratio is 80%, and his fight time is 8 minutes and 55 seconds. So the fact that he's throwing so many strikes per minute, his fight time isn't that much. His takedown defense is at 96%. Habib's takedown accuracy is at 45%. Yep, 45%. He lands 45% of his takedowns. That's not very high. Like I said back when I was talking about Islam, there's a lot of fighters that land more, that land better accuracy with their takedowns. But it's not about how many takedowns he gets. It's what happens when he lands them. What's Dustin going to have to do to beat Habib? Well, first of all, he has one trait. That's cardio, conditioning. He's a very conditioned athlete. His DO2 max is in the 60s. That's what they say. That's 10 points lower than an elite marathon runner. So his conditioning is that good. I'm not saying his VO2 max is better than Habib's. I don't think anybody knows what Habib's is. I don't think he keeps track of that. And I'm not saying that he has better conditioning than Habib, but he does have good conditioning. And I think one key to beating Habib is being able to keep up with that pace with conditioning, not getting tired. It's really hard to get Max tired. He doesn't get tired very often anymore in the lightweight division. And when we're able to keep the fight on the feet, you got to be able to hurt him. And he's shown that he can do that. His knockdown ratio is 80.80. So Dustin's gonna have to fight those takedown attempts. He ain't gonna stop them all. He's gonna take him down. But when he does get taken down, he's gonna have to work his ass to get back to his feet. He fights out American Top Team, so he has great wrestlers in this camp getting him ready. He has great coaches. You gotta assume he has a great game plan. So the keys to Dustin Poirier winning. He's gonna have to be able to keep going with the pace. He ain't gonna be able to slow down. He can't slow down against Habib, otherwise Habib's just gonna beat him up in later rounds. He's gonna have to keep the fight on the feet as long as he can. And when he does, if he can keep it on the feet, he has to beat up the body. He has to throw hooks, jabs to the body, leg kicks, body kicks. He has to beat up Habib's body. He has to do whatever he can to slow him down. Because if he can slow Habib down, the better off he is in the later rounds. Because if Habib's too exhausted, if his fatigue is too high, it's going to be too hard for him to take Dustin down. And that's when Dustin can lay down to beat down. Whenever Habib comes in, he has to fight for those underhooks. He has to grab them. He has to fight the hands, get wrist control. If you get the wrist control, keep Habib from locking his hands, keep Habib from getting those easy takedowns. He has to keep moving because he can't keep his back towards that cage. If he keeps his back on that cage, it's going to be a lot easier for Habib to take him down. Habib isn't very good at taking people down from distance, but once he gets that lock in, once he gets the clinch, gets you up against the cage, he's a monster. He's unstoppable. You can't beat him in the clinch. You can't beat him against the cage. You got to be like a world-class sambo, judo fighter to beat him against the cage. Just keep his distance. Keep moving. He needs to take angles, fight the hands, get wrist control. He ain't gonna do it. That's a lot to ask. I think Dustin, he is almost a perfect fighter to beat Habib. He can keep the pace going. He can fight pace with Habib's pace. It's just the wrestling. He's been training wrestling ever since he started MMA, basically. And Habib's been wrestling since he was a kid. You're gonna need someone with an elite athleticism to be able to learn or become a great defensive wrestler right off the bat. Or you just got to have a great wrestling background, like Gregor Gillespie, his own training partner Islam, Justin Gaethje. These are all guys that have great wrestling backgrounds, been wrestling all their lives, stuffing takedowns their whole lives. Dustin hasn't. I don't see Dustin defending enough takedowns. I don't see him. I could see him hurting Habib, maybe. I could see him making Habib work really hard. I don't think this win's going to come easy for Habib. I think Dustin's going to put up one hell of a fight. I think Habib's going to try and rest in the third round like he does. He slows down when the third round comes. Habib's going to lay down. Dustin's going to try everything he can to lay down. I think he might even win the third, fourth round, but Habib's going to gain dominance. I think if fifth round comes, he's going to gain that dominance back in wrestling. I think he's going to win the decision. I think Habib beats Dustin by unanimous decision. I don't think he's gonna submit Dustin. But yeah, that is my UFC 242 breakdown, and this is my handsome little man. He's very fussy right now. I had to stop the video, pick him up, and he just woke up fussing. And I'm tired too, so I had to finish the video with him. He's the cutest thing in the world. But yep, if you like what you see, hit subscribe, and if you want me to do other videos, videos I haven't done yet, comment section. Throw me comments what you want to see. I love MMA. I'll cover anything besides the really dramatic politics of MMA. I refuse to do that stuff, but anything else, throw everything at me. I'm good. I'm good to do anything. But next time, for sure, my next video for sure is going to be the UFC 242 post-fight video. We'll see if I'm right with all my predictions, or if any. Till next time. See you later, MMA fans.